So I'm gonna make some pita. I was showing you guys before, like a little bit, but maybe I'll go through this a little better. So we got regular flour. I'm making a double batch, so we have 2 packages of active dry. A little bit of sugar, and we got wheat flour. I need kosher salt, olive oil. So since I'm doubling it, it's gonna be 2 cups of lukewarm water. 2 cups. My tap was already a little bit warm because I was rinsing stuff out. So we're gonna make our sponge. So our sponge starts out with our water. And our yeast and our sugar. The sugar kind of helps with the yeast, kind of activate it. And so, since we're doing a double, maybe like a teaspoon of sugar. I can kind of eye this out a little bit. That looks about right. It's a little more. It's not that big a deal, honestly. The yeast likes the sugar anyway. So now we're gonna start to like add this extra dry and kind of stir it in. Try to let it dissolve a little bit. Ba-ba-da-da. So I got this. I got it. I mean, it's a little clumpy, but since it's lukewarm water, I'm not gonna get it to like dissolve right away. Sorry if it's making a lot of scratchy noises because I'm using this fork. Okay, in the sponge, we're going to add a 1/2 cup of regular flour and a 1/2 cup of wheat flour. And I find this recipe works really well for this, so I do not stray. Of course, like I said, I'm doing a double, so usually it's a 1/4 and a 1/4. So I have my 1/4 cup in here. Do 2 of those. And my wheat flour. Alright. And that's all the wheat flour you're going to need. It's mostly just regular flour. It's the wheat flour, just gives it some extra protein or the gluten, whatever it is. Like I said, I don't stray. This recipe works out really well. It tastes good. So now I'm just kind of like getting this flour to like dissolve in here the best I can. Try to destroy some of the clumps along the side the best I can. If there's a couple clumps, it's not like that big a deal, as long as you got most of it dissolved. So, this is what we have right here, and this sponge is going to sit for 15 minutes covered. Tea towel. 15 minutes. Alright, our next endeavor here. So I had marinated that shawarma. This is my roaster. I'm gonna roast this bitch. I'm gonna do it like the restaurants do. And I've never done it this way before. So I haven't used my roaster in a little bit, but that's fine. The box it's in is kind of raggedy. Yeah. So this piece goes there. That's this. And this. Like so. And we plug this little bitch in. Sometimes you gotta settle on the place. Now this can also do like kebabs. There it goes. Okay, so I'm gonna skewer my meat here, making sure my stuff's all latched in. Here's my meat. It's been marinating for a little over 2 days. I find this is the most potential for flavor here. I double bagged it. This is my strip steak that I got. or part of it. Obviously, I divided it into sections. It smells glorious. I'm gonna fucking skewer this bitch. Ah, nice and tender. Yeah, that was a smooth criminal move. Now I gotta spin it, make sure it's not gonna hit these edges here while I'm cooking. Oh, gotta walk back into place again. Let's see. I think this part's gonna be an issue, so I'm gonna adjust this. Let me see. I think that'll work. I gotta wash my hands again. Stick this little bit back up here. Come on. And it's just an open air roaster. I don't know if I want to save the marinade or the juice. Maybe if it gets a little dry, I'll baste it a little bit as it's spinning. Because this will probably take a couple hours on the roaster here. So I'm just going to keep that in the fridge on the off chance because it has all my nice spices and stuff. If it could baste it every now and again, just keep the flavor going. I haven't done a cooking video in a while, but I figured show you. I got pretty excited about this strip roast, and I think it kind of just grazed the edge, some of the spices there, so you might see a little smoke come off this. But I love this roaster. It's pretty cool. So I'll give you some food porn here. Just some slow roasting action. It smells really good. And once it starts cooking, this whole apartment's gonna smell amazing. A little bit. You'll start to see the like I can start feeling the heat off this coil. But yeah, this I have my electric knife. I'm gonna shave it and everything. But yeah, so this little buddy's gotta sit. I think I'll move him over here out of the way. And keep it. I'm like very paranoid about fire and stuff, so keep it away from anything I think might be an issue. My beat up box that my roaster comes in. But these are you can make kebabs on this roaster. It's really good. I forgot what this piece does. It's a hand cranker. I don't know. I'm just gonna stick this stuff back in here. So I'm waiting for my sponge to go. Oh! I know what I need to do. I'm gonna make some tabbouli, so I'm gonna get my Pita. Pita, or correct wheat. And I'm gonna get a couple cups of warm water. Okay. Do it in this today. Just stick this water in here, and I'm just going to use this cup to measure my grain. And I can add more water if it's a little dry. I find can be some variance there. Sometimes it'll, you know, run a little more dry. I can add a little more water when it starts kind of absorbing in here. But yeah, we gotta let this grain saturate here. And it probably will need more water, but I don't want to like get too hasty on that bit, so I'm gonna set this aside. And this will also be covered and set aside. Actually, I will use some of my lids to cover that. Whatever the heck my lids are. The heck! I don't know where my lids is one too. I swear. Is one back here? Is that the right size? There's one. I don't know where the fuck. I usually put all my lids in the same cabinet, which is over this way. But I don't understand, but I'm just gonna, it doesn't really need to be like snapped on, it just needs to be lightly covered. So, let the rest of this spot out our way. I like that I can get this big ass bag for like $7, which is a lot cheaper. You get a lot more than you would if you get couscous, which is basically like, there's different types of cracked wheat. So couscous can be like a bulgur. Of course, this one's Pita. It's an Indian brand called Dip. It looks like deep, but it's pronounced Dip, as far as I'm aware. And the fine cracked wheat is a lot better for making tabbouli. I've used a more coarse cracked wheat before, bigger grain, and it was okay, but it wasn't quite what I was going for. So, I'm still waiting on that sponge for the pita. So in the meantime, I'm going to start pulling apart some parsley, getting that ready, which this is the most tedious part for the tabbouli. And the sponge will be ready in a little bit, so I'll be adding the flour and stuff, but it's not to waste any time. Alright, our sponge is ready. This is what it looks like. You can kind of tell the wheat and regular flour in there. So, now we're going to add our salt. So, it's going to be 2 teaspoons, so it's double batch. I'm going to get my teaspoon right here. Where it's at? Teaspoon. And 4 tablespoons of olive oil. We'll see. This might be. I'm just kind of feeling this out because I feel like there was probably about just a little over 4 in there. If I need a little more, I'll add a little more. This is just my, like, since there's not much left in there. If you haven't cooked for a while, I would not advise not measuring, but I just kind of can feel some of that shit out. Where? Oh, done. My flour is literally right here. I need to add 3.5 cups of flour, and I have a reserve of about a cup of flour for kneading and all that. So, 2, 3.5, and I keep my thing over here for the reserve because I almost never need the reserve. It's like a half cup of reserve per batch, basically. So a double batch is obviously the cup of reserve. I know I keep repeating myself about it being a double batch, but I just force a habit, I guess. Sorry if I'm being annoying on that end, but so we're making like a shaggy mixture here. And I try not to over mix this, just enough to make this kind of shaggy and even. I can tell. So that's a good look for that. And so my next move, okay, so I gotta add a little bit of reserve flour. So I just kind of like dust a little bit over the top here and some on my hands because it says knead it for about a minute. I just kind of knead it in the bowl because that works for me. because it doesn't need to be, it's like a light kneading, it doesn't need to be too crazy. I leave one hand, you know, unadulterated here to add reserve flour as needed, because it does get a little sticky. Okay, so that's about a minute, and try to get as much of the excess off my fingers as I can here. There will always be some sacrifices to the sink gods, but there's my kneaded for a minute. Okay, and I'm supposed to let it rest here for a moment, and then I'm supposed to do another kneading round on it. So, I'm gonna do another round of kneading. So, more reserve flour over the top here and around the bowl, and flour hands, and another 2 minutes. I always knead this in the bowl when I'm doing this step because I don't find it makes a difference whether I turn it out and knead it or just keep kneading it in here. Like, it really, that part does not matter. It's not affects the taste or how it cooks. You can see and hear my roasting in the background there. And you don't have to throw reserve flour on this pretty, I won't say often, just enough to keep it from like completely sticking to your hand. You can see I'm just sort of doing it like this. Just a gentle kneading, nothing too vigorous. It doesn't need like anything crazy, but that looks good. So I have to let it sit for 10 minutes. Alright, so this is after resting, so it's got to be kneaded for another 2 minutes. You'll hear my shawarma meat roasting back here. Smelling pretty good. Kneading in the bowl, kneading in the bowl, do, 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 kneading in the bowl. Between the pita and the shawarma, it smells really good over here. Oh my gosh. Two minutes feels like a while when you're punching dough in a bowl. Alright, close enough. We got that. We gotta cover it with saran wrap and a tea towel over the saran wrap. And then we gotta let it rest for an hour so it'll. I have to pull the saran wrap tightly. I have to do a few layers because of how big this bowl is to like get it on there well. So I'm gonna kind of press it. I'm gonna still have issue. Good enough. This is a warm place, so I'll stick it a little closer to where the roaster's at because that's warm. I need my cheap ass plastic wrap. And I'm gonna finish pulling apart the parsley for my tabbouli. I literally can't cook anything without these goddamn fire alarms going off. It's not even smoky. Alright, I was about to poke my meat. Giggity. And see where we're at temperature wise. I'll stop you spinning for a moment there. Go on the fattiest part here. That doesn't seem right. Doesn't say the inside of my meat's colder than the frickin' ambient temperature around it. Are you, I think this thing might be a little ganked. I don't know. Let me try this one. No, it's just still cold in the middle. My bad. Alright, finally cut up all my, or picked all my parsley. Now I gotta kind of cut it into like smaller bits. I guess I should have actually left half of it in this bowl to make my life easier. Or actually do this in sections. Or I'm gonna make a mess of things. So I'm just gonna like chop all this parsley up. I want to say my tabbouli, or the wheat, maybe slightly a bit of water, but I don't think it's an issue, honestly. I have to do this a few layers to chop all this up. So, but this is my first go about, so I'll finish up the other ones. Alright, so I finished all my parsley here. Next I'm gonna cut up some green onion. I'm gonna rinse these off. And let's see. We're gonna chop up some green onion. Finish cutting up all these green onions. Alright. So we got our green onion all in there. And parsley. So I'm trying to mix this in with the cracked wheat. Just kind of lightly mixing it for now. Cracked pepper, and I will adjust this to my taste as needed. And some olive oil. And I need a third of a cup of lemon juice, so I'm going to cut these up. Alright, we're going to add a little bit of salt to this. I don't like much salt personally, so it calls for like a 1/8 of a teaspoon. That's probably about like a pinch when I put in there. I like a lot more pepper than salt. And more pepper. This is my tabbouli. Tastes good to me. A little lemony, a little peppery. Maybe I'll put a little more pepper in here. Taste the garlic olive oil that I put in there. Good shit. Now I'm waiting on my pita to finish resting. And I'm gonna check the temperature on this meat again. We're at 101. So I think where we need to be for beef is like 160. So we're still a little bit off on this. Alright. My thing went off. We can see the big boy expanded quite a bit. So we have to divide this up into 16 balls since it's a double batch. So I usually do this. Here, let me flour my hands a little bit. Just to kind of make this not stick to me as much. So the best way for me to do this is just kind of, it looks like a ball sack. Okay, so we divide it in half, 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 half. These are all approximations. And do each half. These may not all be the most even, but I find this is good enough for me. So I have my first 8 pieces here. And I might actually kind of add this to one of my smaller, because they're still pretty sticky, so I can kind of even these out too. Because my math isn't exactly perfect, but we just kind of roll these into little balls here. And I'm putting this in a little silicone dish here, or pan, just to kind of keep this all together. And so this is the first bunch, and we cover it with a damp tea towel, washcloth, whatever. And I'm gonna just do my other set of 8, same deal. Divide it into 8 balls as evenly as you can. Okay. That looks pretty good there. And that is like sticking to my fingers. And then my balls here. And I'm preheating my oven to, actually it needs to go up to 475. I had it on 450 because I didn't remember our exact temperature until I looked at my recipe book. So this is the other set. And these have to sit covered under the damp cloth for 15 minutes. So I'm going to attempt here to slice this up using my electric knife I just got recently. It's a little bit messy. That one worked. I'm definitely going to have to clean this off. This New York strip does have a pretty big fat layer, as you can see, so it does help keep the meat spin this around a little bit. So you can see there's like a layer of the spices cooked in there. And like this is just a layer of spices and fats that cooked in. So like this is just gonna end up being trash. Having it medium. Last little piece of meat here. I'm just gonna kind of pull it up off the thing. There's this piece of fat here on the bottom, which that's pretty much all fat. So I'll just throw that out. All right, so we do this pan, this cast iron pan, in the oven. Whew, it's fucking hot. I mean, who would have guessed, right? And you start taking these little balls out one by one and kind of flatten them a little bit. And have some reserve flour here. And I have this little mini roller, which I find is perfect for this pita. Kind of rolling out my basic shape here. And so there is our little thing, and I'm waiting for the oven to finish preheating. Alright, so I'm going to take this and we're going to go in the oven on this cast iron. Need to adjust here. So, on the counter, and we just stick that in there for like a minute, and we'll flip it. I'm gonna be like a minute-ish, but while I wait, I prep another one of these up here. Get another one up here, and we watch this down here. So you'll see it should start to bubble up a little bit. That'll make the little pocket for the actual pita part. So this one isn't quite puffing. Like, it's got a little puffy, so I'm gonna flip it and let it finish cooking there. We got these ones in there. I'm trying to do 2 at a time to try to reduce, but here's a finished one here. Oops. I tried to rip it in half. So sometimes I have this issue where the pocket doesn't form. I don't know if it just wasn't hot enough, but I can still cut it open. It's pretty, it has a start. Here's what you want. This has a nice bit of puff to it, so that one's gonna have a good pocket. Here you go, some hot pita action. Ooh. Here is my shawarma on my pita. I have some homemade pickled red onion and my tabbouli. We'll call that some good eating. Good shit. Thanks for joining me on a cooking with Mushy adventure. You can subscribe if you want, because I post random shit.